Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are back with another video, and this week I want to talk to you guys about what is eBay dropshipping, and basically just give you a little bit more of a background, get into maybe more specifics around what is eBay dropshipping, what are some of the cons, what are some of the pros, and if it's something that is right for you. So if you think this is something of interest, please let me know. Leave me a comment down in the sections in the comment section down below, and let me know what your thoughts are on the subject. Maybe you're an experienced dropshipper, maybe you're new, maybe you have already started but you're having some difficulties, and maybe you've come at a crossroad and you're not sure whether or not you want to continue down this path. And hopefully this video might give you some insight as to whether or not it's still worth it for you to continue doing any sort of drop shipping, whether it's on eBay or whether it's on Amazon. And hopefully this video will prove to be helpful and either encourage you or maybe tell you that this is not for you. But in any event, I want to make my best effort to present the information and let you guys make the decision on what is the best route for you to follow. Again, my name is Daniel and welcome to my YouTube channel. I started documenting my experience on YouTube recently. I've put out a few videos already on some of the things that I've been doing with eBay right now. I have mentioned in the past that I also sell on Amazon, but right now I'm just starting out with some of the content around what I'm doing with eBay. So if something that interests you is something you would like to maybe learn more about, based on my personal experience, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a big like to the video if you find this information to be helpful and useful. And please feel free to share with anyone that you think might enjoy or might want to learn from this content. So like I said earlier, I want to today talk about eBay dropshipping, and I want to keep this video short. All my other videos have kind of run too long. I don't want to ramble on too much like I am doing right now. Sorry guys, I'm still getting comfortable behind the camera. This stuff is not as easy as it looks, but it's a personal challenge for myself. I want to get better, and the only way to get better at something is to do it over and over and over again. So thank you for hanging in there, and hopefully this content will prove to be helpful and useful for you. So let me go back to the topic at hand. So the topic at hand is, what is dropshipping? So dropshipping is something that's been around forever. It's not something new. It's not something that has been discovered, by certain people who are now making content like myself on YouTube. It's something that's been around for a very long time, and it's basically it's a fulfillment process, right? It's basically where throughout the supply chain, right, you have a manufacturer, which is someone who's mass producing a product, right? And then that manufacturer goes ahead and then sells those products to distributors and wholesalers, and then these folks then sell products directly to large retail chains, small businesses, and individuals like you and I, right? So that's like the supply chain, like in a nutshell, right? So drop shipping is when basically throughout that supply chain, let's say in my case, I'm an individual, buyer. Instead of me actually buying let's say 100 units of product directly from my supplier or from the distributor, whomever that may be, some of them have a process by which you buy the product at the point that it sells from your storefront. So I hope you don't get too confused right there. So basically what I'm saying is that the product sells from my storefront. I have a relationship with the wholesaler or supplier, right? So when my item sells, for in this example, eBay, right? I then place the order from my supplier, and then the supplier ships it directly to my customer. So I, as the third party in this transaction, I never handle the product, I never touch the product, I never see the product, I never, pack the product. The product gets shipped directly from the supplier to the customer. And in a nutshell, that is what drop shipping is. And before I get into the list of the pros and the cons, which I will in just a minute, one of the things that makes this model so attractive, especially to beginners, beginners like myself, beginners like you, who have no prior experience of selling online, or you don't have the budget, up front to invest in, heavy loads of a certain product, right? Is that you are only buying the product when it sells. And that is the greatest thing to have to your advantage if you're wanting to get into learning and starting to sell on your own, right? Whether it's through your own website or through marketplaces, to have that flexibility where you don't need large amount of capital to get started is tremendous. Like it's amazing, and that's what kind of makes this model work so well for beginners, or people who don't have a lot of cash to invest in a lot of product. Because typically, big retail chains, for example, like Walmart, buys items like in bulk, like in large quantities, from directly from the manufacturer sometimes, right? Because they just have these relationships that allow them to get access to those products at prices that, you and I will never see, right? Unless we become our own Walmart, sometime in the future. And that's the big difference, right? For individual sellers like ourselves, we are cash strapped, some of us. We don't have access to credit, some of us. But we still want to be able to participate, right, in this e-commerce sales structure. So drop shipping gives us that flexibility, right? So I created a simple slide, just kind of to walk through the information that I want to share with you guys, and I just bringing it up right now. And we come back to the question, right? So what is dropshipping? So I went out and found a very simple definition to kind of reiterate what I just shared with you guys. And right, so here's the definition that I found on the web for dropshipping. Again, there's many different ways you can interpret this, but the essence of what it is pretty much within that text that I'm sharing with you guys, right? So dropshipping is a supply chain management method in which the retailer does not keep the goods in stock, but instead, transfer it to the customer, orders and shipment details to either the manufacturer, another retailer, a wholesaler, who then ships the goods directly to the customer, right? So it's a third party. There's someone who's in between that supply chain that's actually handling the product and then sending it directly to your customer. So that, in essence, is what drop shipping is. So thank you for hanging in there. So as I promised, I'm gonna share, what are some of my pros and cons to getting into drop shipping, and more specifically drop shipping on eBay. But before I do that, I just kind of want to show you this very simple model And it basically describes what I just kind of took a few minutes explaining. So here's your storefront, right? You're in the middle. Here's your customer, and here's your supplier, right? So that's basically the life cycle of what the dropshipping model looks like. So customer buys from your storefront, you place your order to your supplier. Supplier then comes around and ships directly to your customer, right? You keep the difference, whatever your profit margins that are set that you want to put for your product, and that's it. And that's basically the model, the flow of things when it comes to drop shipping. So let's get into the pros. And in no particular order, by the way, let me just make sure that you guys are able to see this. So let me minimize my screen just a bit more. And sorry for the pause. Just want to make sure that you guys can see this as clearly as possible. So here we are. So the pros. I listed 5. I mean, there may be more, less, depending on how you look at this. But the number one thing for me is the little upfront investment. So this comes back to how much money do you need out of pocket to actually start. It's very minimal, right? Depending on how many items you want to list for sale on your eBay store, do the math and try to kind of estimate, how much you would need to cover like your first months of orders, right? Because in the beginning, things might change now because I know eBay is starting to force people to transition over to eBay managed payment systems away from PayPal. So if you're still using PayPal right now and you're new, you're probably noticing that PayPal will hold your funds for a few days and up to maybe a week or more, right? And they just do that for security purposes. It's for your security and it's for the customer security to make sure that transactions are legit. They're legitimate, business transactions. They just want to make sure that everything is running smoothly, right? So because of that, you want to make sure that you have enough cash to place the orders from your suppliers. But again, that's a whole different conversation for another day. But definitely a pro is the fact that little upfront investments. There is no warehousing needs. You don't have to store any products, so you don't need a huge space because, like I explained before, the product is sent directly from your supplier. So that's a plus. That's actually a very good thing. Your supplier is pretty much who handles and packs your order for your customer, so you don't have to spend money on boxes or tape or any of the other shipping supplies that come with shipping, right? Supplier takes care of that, so that's another worry that you have to another worry that you don't have to have while you're managing your store, right? So that's definitely a big pro, the fact that all the shipping is being handled by the supplier. There's a very simple return process. Again, a lot of the suppliers you work with, you already know what their return policies are. A lot of them provide prepaid shipping labels to return the items, which is a great benefit because pretty much you can offer free returns to your customer. But that varies depending on the supplier. So I would just keep an eye out for that. But to me, that's definitely a big pro when it comes to handling returns. Customers change their minds, so you want to make sure that the return process is easy. And depending on the supplier, it can be very easy. So that's another pro to using the drop shipping method. And lastly, there's a large variety of products when you're drop shipping, so you're not tied down to just one supplier. Like you can pick 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 suppliers to be able to fulfill your orders, which is great because you diversify, You're able to offer more variety to your customers. You're able to distinguish yourself from your competition. So the fact that you're not tied down to just one provider is a huge pro, and it puts you in a position to better serve your customer because you give them variety, and two, it puts you in a position to better compete because you won't be fighting it out with all the other sellers who are maybe using like Walmart, for example, right? It's very popular to dropship from Walmart, so you won't be competing with them, and that'll put you in a better position to get more sales and be more successful, right? Okay, so I'm not quite sure how many minutes we're in, but I want to try to see if I keep this in under 15 minutes. I don't want to bore you guys too much, so let's quickly go over the cons, right? So there's definitely some cons when it comes to the drop shipping, because it's very easy to some extent to get started, right? There are much lower barriers of entry, meaning that anyone can go to eBay, create an account, and start selling. Like anybody can do this. You might be competing for much smaller profit margins than if you were to be selling the products directly on your website, for example, right? But it's a two-way street when it comes to that, because you'll get a lot more traffic if you have a storefront on eBay than you might if you have your own website. But again, it varies, because maybe you are very, very good at driving traffic to websites, and if that's the case, then you're probably better off selling on your own website because you master the art of driving traffic to your website, and then you can recoup whatever profit margin you want. But the reality is that most people don't have that expertise, or are not at a point where they are ready to do that just yet. But they still want to learn, they still want to be able to sell through eBay and make a little side income while doing it. But if you're going to sell on eBay, just have the expectations that profit margins are not going to be as big as compared to if you're selling on your own website. And the reason why is because obviously there's courses out there already that are teaching people how to drop ship. Many people, drop ship using Walmart, for example, among many other retailers, right? So the cat is out of the bag. People know about this. People are doing it, and you're competing with these people. And if you want to get the sale, and 15 people are selling the same product, the only other place where you can differentiate yourself is going to be with the price, as an example. There's other things you can do, but most people automatically gravitate to cheaper price. Then that means my listing, might have a better opportunity to sell, right? So con number one, small profit margins for the reasons that I just outlined. Low barriers of entry, I just touched on that right now, so I kind of did two at the same time. High competition, again, I think I already kind of loosely touched on that because there's more information, like what I'm doing right now, kind of sharing this information via YouTube, because there are courses out there. A lot more people are becoming more educated and are learning more about what dropshipping is. So competition over the last couple of years have gone up a little bit more. It's not to say that you cannot be successful, because I myself, I am a testimonial to having success drop shipping on eBay. So yes, you can get there, but there's definitely high competition depending on what suppliers you're using, right? So that is a con, like I just outlined. Product quality, again, that's also a con, because since you're drop shipping, you're not handling the product yourself. So if I were to buy this iPhone, which is my phone, and I don't know what the quality of the phone is, and maybe the customer gets it and it's damaged, or something happened with the phone, it might cause a negative buying experience. So because of that, you might have more returns, more negative comments, because you are never physically like, making sure the product is fine, like the packing was done correctly. And that's kind of like the risk you take when you're drop shipping, when you're handling the product, is that you don't have the opportunity to inspect the product and make sure that everything is A-okay, right? So product quality, number 4. And the last one is that when it comes to drop shipping, and specifically when you're on eBay, you have to follow their marketplace rules. And over the last year and a half, eBay has changed their policy against the act of drop shipping when using other retailers, right? It goes against their terms of service. They changed that. You can actually go and see that any arbitrage from other retail sites is prohibited. But if you're using wholesale suppliers, you're totally okay. Like, there's no issue with that. They just don't want you to be drop shipping from other retailers. Now, you would ask yourself, but hey, wait a minute, you're just telling me that people are doing this from Walmart. And yes, they are. There's a risk in anything that you do. It's up to you whether you want to pursue that and for how long. Because if you're running a consistent store where you are, selling products, answering, customer complaints, addressing customer service issues, if you're doing it on a timely manner and you're not causing the customer a negative experience, for the most part, eBay will leave you alone. Like, they're not gonna come after you and shut your store down. They won't do that, because how they identify if you're like drop shipping from a supplier is that a machine does that for eBay. It's an algorithm that, based on prior history of events that have been happening on your storefront, they will pick up on that, right? And automatically that will send an alert on the eBay side and potentially flag you for violating the terms of service. But at the end of the day, if you do things right, you have the power, and you probably won't be impacted by that policy, and fly under the radar for a period of time if you're doing everything right. But what you want to do is, like, long term, you want to transition off these retailers and start getting into wholesalers. That way you'll have longevity for your business, and you won't be impacted by these problems with the policy. So that's my last con when it comes to drop shipping with eBay. So take this into consideration. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know on the comments down below. I'd love to hear your feedback. And thank you for tuning in. I hope the video wasn't very long. I'm really trying hard to watch my time, but we'll see how long this video ends up being. Again, my name is Daniel. If you haven't followed me yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you like the content, please give it a thumbs up. And again, thank you for tuning in, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.